Hey, hope you guys are all having a good day. I want to go over why BA took a huge run in the market today. Let's get started. Okay, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Josh, and I hope you guys are all having a terrific day today. Now, let's look at BA or Boeing. Now, we got some news out on Boeing, or not Boeing in general, but we had some news about the vaccine, right? 94% success on this vaccine. So I continue to go back. We've talked about this before. I go back to your Carnival Cruises, your movie theater stocks, your airlines, stocks that have been continuously being beaten down by the coronavirus. Okay, so we first off, I wanted to show you. I talk about symmetry in the market. I believe a lot in the symmetry and how that plays out. We get this nice strong push up. We got to pull back to roughly around the 50% retracement from this first original leg that pushed in the northern direction, and now we're getting this move higher. But what really brought my attention is first getting the news saying that we have this, and the news continues to stick. So I'm going, okay, I like Boeing. Boeing's at a low price. Boeing's a good company. It's got potential. Let's rock. Now, what I liked about it was the daily chart. Now let's check out the daily chart. What was so important about the daily chart was we got, now when I first started trading, I had a hard time seeing the patterns on the daily chart. We got gaps all over the place. It's kind of hard to see. Just like this, for example, we get this push up right here. We get this little pullback, and then we get this big move higher. Now, because the candle's red, doesn't mean that we didn't get a continuation for that move. Here's symmetry again, right? Push up, pull back, push up. If you measure from this spot to here, this spot to here, it's about the same size move. Now, where were we getting rejections? Now, if you were following, we played this very first day when it gapped up on Boeing, and I believe we might have played the second day. Not 100% sure, but what I was watching is I go, okay, so the news got my attention. Now I check the daily chart and I'm going, oh man, we gapped over this pivot. Now, it's important. If we gap over pivots, well, first off, why is it important? There are sellers in these pivot highs, right? So as the stock went up, it got pushed up, it got slapped right back down. Here as it kind of fell underneath, and I believe this is 189. Yeah, so it's 190. So in this 190 to 189.50 zone, we have a lot of sellers there, okay? And we want to understand that. So we made this nice strong push up in the market or in Boeing, and then we had this pullback, and we were sellers into this 190 level. Once it pulls back, we get our reversal candle. We get another strong move higher. Now, in many cases, in order to get over these extremely critical price points in any stock or the market, we gap over it when it becomes a problem. This was a critical level. We gapped over it. So I immediately start thinking, okay, if we're gapping over it, either we're going to have a strong gap and crap, as in the stock continues just to sell off, it just gaps higher and then it sells off, or we're going to hold that support as, or that resistance that used to be resistance as new support. So that's what we were looking into. And if we look at some of our bigger time frames, for example, so that's what I saw on the daily chart. We have this push up, a pull back, and a push up, just same as this, push up, pull back, and another push up. So that's exactly what I was watching for. Okay, so the daily chart caught our attention first. Now, if we go down to some of these lower time frames, I believe the 15-minute chart closed on a very strong candle. So this 15-minute chart, if we look, I went back a couple days and I grabbed the tops of these. Now, let's break down the tops of these couple of days. What I do is I believe in support and resistance. Obviously, everybody plays support and resistance. There's resistance in a stock and support in a stock as well. So, but what we want to pay attention to, and I think it's more critical to realize where support and resistance. If you slap a line in the chart, it pokes through it, you stop out, the stock continues, right? I think it's more important to understand that there's a price level in that area of the chart that could potentially be holding, because there's either going to be buyers there or sellers there. Okay, just like at the top of the chart was sellers, now we're at a price point where we gapped over, which would these would be those highs of those on those daily chart levels, right? And so what I want to see is I want to go, okay, if these were the highs and this is where it gapped into or gapped above, and this is where the stock pushed up and then got rejected, where are the sellers at? We have wicks right here. We have this big reversal candle, right? This would be a reversal pattern. We got a strong candle up and way past 50% down the previous candle, right? It was like more like 150 or 200% down. So we could say, okay, this, and each time it gets up here, it gets slapped back down. It comes up and gets slapped back down. Now, we can also see that there are plenty of sellers right underneath this price area, right? So if we were to grab this area and go, okay, this is what we're looking at. This is the area that we found sellers in. This is where they got rejected, couldn't get back above, and the stock continued to sell off. So I want to pay attention to this area. Notice where the wicks came in at on BA. Now all we do is go, okay, this is the next resistance because we had a hard time getting over it. So it's finding support pre-market. And then we're going, okay, we're finding this as resistance now, this 195 level, 195, 196, as resistance. And so I start looking at the chart and go, okay, I may be a buyer here because that's where that gap's at. So I make this my buy zone or my buy area, right? So rejection, we're above it. What used to be resistance now becomes support. And so we are watching for this price reaction around, we're watching lower time frames, what happens around this price area. And I will show you what happens next. Now, to get some of these other levels, what I did is I like my 3-hour charts. I like my 3-hour charts a lot. My daily chart and 3-hour chart, if I pay attention to those, they will tell me where we have clear support and resistance lines, and they will also tell us direction in the market, okay? So we can see that if we scrunch the chart up, we can go, okay, where are we getting some resistance? We have resistance way up here. We found these tops in here, okay? So we found that sellers come in right around this price point. So if we grab this as a zone, and generally when I have an indecision bar like this, I like to grab the middle of that indecision bar. I know that there's a struggle. I also know that right here there was a pattern built sideways in order to get underneath it. Do you see the struggle here? Here's another indecision bar. Here's an indecision bar or a high wave candle, depending on what you want to call it. So if we blow up the chart, here is the indecision bar. So I'm going to grab that, okay? And if we continue to scrunch the chart up, get an idea, we go, okay, here's another level of resistance or support, depending. We see all these wicks coming in. If we put our line right there, let's just see how it reacts around this level here. Here's another potential. Here's a couple more wicks. Found it as support down here. We found it as support right here as it got bought up. So let's look at that a little closer. So here's a wick getting sucked up. Here's wicks getting rejected. Here's buying pressure coming up. So let's put a line there. And we're just going to see where these lines go. Now let's color this in because this would be, to me, our sell area. This is where we will most likely find a lot of sellers. And then we know that in this area, look at this gap, how, you know, if there's a hard area to get over, it generally gaps above it. So we want to pay attention to our gaps. And let's go down to the lower time frame. And this is the most important. Is not necessarily the most important, but this is where we're going to hopefully see how it reacts. So remember, these were the top areas where we gapped over. So let's look at the lower time frame. And we see that we had some strong buying pressure coming up in BA at that level. We have this reversal candle coming down, or the first 1 minute candle looks very bearish. Now, if we pull this chart over, doesn't that look like a bearish flag to you? Doesn't that look like it's just going to continue down if we don't see any of these green candlesticks? So that's what a lot of people are looking at. They're thinking that it's going to be bearish. It's going to be like that gapping crap I was explaining. Now, if we understand how the pivots work and gapping above the pivots and finding true support and resistance, then we can have a good understanding of where to start looking at to go bullish if it's above an area, or bearish if it starts getting underneath this area. Once we started getting this squeeze, we start making these higher lows I talk about consistently all the time. Here's the 50% up the 1 minute candle. That would be the reversal area. Once we close above the reversal, we can think about getting long. Now, look at where we put these other support and resistance lines by just looking at the wicks. Okay, this would prove that this would be some sort of a zone also. Here's our pre-market high on why it got stopped. Here's the area of the wicks that it got stopped at, and now it battled in between these areas. When we got above this area, 197.70, it went sideways, held support, which used to be resistance, right? Resistance, now it's support. And we made our move higher. Now, look at where that indecision bar, or the high wave middle candle, where we put in that top zone, right at the end, where it topped out. Now the stock continues. Yep. So tomorrow it's closing high a day. Let's see where it happens. There's plenty more room in this stock if we continue to look at the daily chart. I haven't looked at the weekly. We should look at the weekly for you guys. So if we're looking at symmetry, and we made this, let's call this a V-shaped recovery, right? So it comes down, it kind of moves sideways. I would have liked to see it kind of move sideways a little longer. Had the news, gap up, pull back, lift off. The stock still has plenty of room and potential. Let's look at the weekly chart, see what it looks like. It's a moving for sure. Nice reversal candle on the weekly chart. Gap higher, indecision bar, breaking the high of the indecision bar. We didn't even look at that, so I didn't notice that this morning. Let's put that. I just want to see what line this is. We'll make this one yellow for kicks and giggles. Now let's go back to that 1 minute chart and just see what happened around that area. Bang, look at that. So that was that first area where it struggled. We pushed beneath it. And once that's that 50% level I was talking about, once we got above that 50% level, it was all over. That was the high of that high wave candle. High wave candles are so critical and important. Those reversal patterns on our bigger time frames are 3-hour charts. So any pattern retracing 50% up the prior bar makes a reversal pattern. Just like this right here, right? So we have this big green bar going up, and then we have this sell bar going down. This would be considered a reversal pattern. We get another reversal right here going 50% up the red candle, causing the stock price to continue higher, right? And it could go back and forth like that several times, but knowing that we're above the 50%, I didn't catch that. I just saw that there was buyers coming into the market. I knew that I was bullish above this price zone of 191, 192. And we knew where our profit targets were. We knew where our resistance were. And the thing is the reason why we didn't sell into these areas is because the daily chart told us that it had a lot more room to the upside. So we can hold longer. We can set our stop losses in, our profit targets, where we believe that stock price is going to continue to move by the pattern and why it's forming and how much volume is pre-market, etc., etc. We get an understanding of how far this stock is going to go. Well, I hope this stuff is useful for you. If it is, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.